We're sitting in lawn chairs on a concrete floor, and there is literally like sheetrock, drywall, dust everywhere. And I'm like, anyone who says yes to this opportunity is absolutely insane.
Welcome to Trained Well. Today we're joined by Michael and Courtney Weaver, the powerhouse couple behind Weaver Sales Academy. Their journey started back in 2014 when they launched a scratch insurance agency with 0 clients. And within just a few years, they climbed to the top 50 out of nearly 19,500 agents nationwide, proving they knew how to build a business from the ground up. But instead of stopping there, they recognized a bigger need in the industry. Insurance agents everywhere were struggling with processes, sales, consistency, and accountability. So in 2018, Michael and Courtney pivoted from running their agency to launching Weaver Sales Academy, a training platform designed to bridge the gap between corporate training and real-world results. Since then, they've trained over 10,000 agents collectively, driving more than $200 million in additional sales growth. They're also the voices behind the Insurance Buzz podcast, where they share sales tips, mindset strategies, and interviews with industry leaders. They're also best-selling authors of Quote 3 and Game Changer. And what makes their story even more unique is that they built this business together as a married couple, showing the world that you can mix marriage and entrepreneurship and actually thrive. In today's conversation, we'll dig into their story, the common challenges agents face, what it's really like running a business with your spouse, and the sales strategies that can transform any agency. Michael and Courtney, welcome to the show.
Let's go, George. That's
How's
probably
that?
one of the
Is that
best
all right?
introductions we have ever had, man. That was good.
I'm impressed, George. You crushed it there. Thank you so much. We're so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you guys here. Well, I always start with this. You were born, you guys met, and now you're here. What happened in between?
My gosh. Okay. Can I share this story?
Let's go, yeah.
Okay. So I am an outsider. So I think in the insurance space, I see a lot where one person is in the insurance industry and the other person comes in, especially when you're talking about working with your partner or your spouse or something like this. So I'm the outsider. So when I met Michael in 2011 at 5 a.m. in the gym, in the least creepy way possible, by the way, he sold me on who he was. He had this dream. He said, I'm here at 5 o'clock in the morning every single day if you want to come back. And I did. And I'm like, all right, we're in. So a few years down the road, we had this vision of really building a business. And kind of at the time, I was still trying to figure out, like, what did I want to do? And he was 100% sold on the insurance industry. And frankly, I thought it was really freaking boring. I'm like, I have no interest in this. I don't even know where my place is going to be in this, but I'm bought in on our life. In 2014, we started a scratch insurance agency 2 months after we got married, 6 months after we had bought our first home, 6 months after we had moved to said location of where we were going to start our agency, and 6 months after we had gotten a new puppy. So we had a new office, a new business, a new marriage, a new puppy, and we were going to do all of these things freshly married. I say all of that because if you were to fast forward and be like, would you do it all over again? Yeah, for sure. But I didn't know what was coming. And I think when you talk about starting multiple businesses, because we went on and started this, we're getting ready to start 6 tomorrow, business number 6. I think the whole point of whatever you're doing is you have to commit to being on the same team. So I knew nothing about insurance. I didn't think it sounded like a lot of fun, but I was committed to building something with the person that I loved. So that's kind of really how we got here. And obviously there's different paths along the way, but that's how it all started.
Yeah, that's how it all started.
Well, and why insurance? You could have done anything.
So that starts with my story. So I was actually going to college for law, and I had to get an internship to graduate. So I had to get an internship before my senior year. And so I skipped going to Panama City with my boys, and on spring break, instead, I went and knocked on a bunch of law firms and banks, and they all told me no, but that's good because they felt like funeral homes. I was like, I wouldn't want to work here anyways, so kick rocks. And then I went to some insurance agents, and they also felt like funeral homes and told me no. But this one agency, even though he told me no, he had a young, like really high energetic vibe. He was a cool dude. And so although he told me no, I made a decision when I left that agency. I'm like, okay, I skipped spring break to find a job. I've been interviewing all day long, every day for the last 2 days. I actually found a location or something that I feel like I could do over a summertime. I'm going to go back to this guy, and I'm going to show up every morning until he gives me a job. So long story short, I showed up, first one in the parking lot. He pulls in his vehicle, kind of gets out of the car and kind of gives me like that little side eye. And I'm like, here's my chance. So I go up. I'm like, Nick, I'm going to show up every single day till you give me a job. And so just like any good business owner, if you find a young, hungry cat, you're going to be like, okay, let's see what you got. So he turned me into his marketing specialist, which actually meant cold caller and errand boy, right? George. So that's how it started. At the end of the summer, he showed me a paycheck, one of his paychecks, and I grew up very blue collar. He's like, look, I get 2 of these a month, and it was more than what I envisioned at that time. My parents making in like 4 or 5 months. I was like, I think I could probably do this for a living instead of going to college and racking up even more money in debt. So after I graduated, I started, and the rest is kind of history. So
That's awesome. And when you finally did, you took the plunge, you did it with a scratch agency. Was that by choice? Was that just by happenstance?
yeah, it was by choice because we'd been offered a couple agencies, pretty big numbers, like over 2 million in premium. It was a location. It was a great location, just not the location we wanted. So when we started agency, we really believed that we were going to be agents forever. We wanted to lock down roots in a town, in a community that we could be proud of. And so we actually held out for a long time waiting for this opportunity. I was the top producer in the state of Missouri and Kansas, luckily, because I only had $5,000 to our name. And so we were given this opportunity, Scratch. And Scratch, look, I know there's a lot of people that are fearful of Scratch opportunities, but if you know how to sell, that's what matters in a Scratch opportunity. So we actually loved a Scratch opportunity. We went into it together, and it allowed us to grow a book of business, get to know our customers. We had great retention, and start to build those service processes and systems along the way. So it was perfect for me because I got to do what I loved without having to go into a book that sometimes can have problems and things like that on the service side.
I mean, did you just get in there, hit the ground running? You started tacking on team members, or like how'd that go? Was it just because I see you now and you're just like, this guy's always crushing it. So was there ever a time where you were like a normal guy, or was it always just like Elon Musk of insurance?
Well, I'll receive that. Look, sometimes things can look way better on the outside than they are going on the inside. Every business owner we've had way more learning lessons, and I call them losses, than we have dubs along the way. And it was me and Courtney in the very beginning with two producers.
We did, George. So we had $5,000 in our bank account. So I say that because we didn't have any other option. Like
Yeah.
we had to make this thing work, or we didn't have a house. We knew without finances, our marriage was going to struggle. We did interviews for team members in lawn chairs. We were still doing our build out. We had to do our build out ourselves because we didn't have enough money. Everyone's doing like $40,000 build outs. And we're like, okay, I'm literally wearing gloves over my nails because it's the week of our wedding and I don't want to get my nails dirty
My
because I'm
gosh.
having to paint in our office. We're literally oh my God, I will never forget this. Our first week of interviews for team members, we had a contractor light in there because we didn't have lights. We're sitting in lawn chairs on a concrete floor, and there is literally like sheetrock, drywall, dust everywhere. And I'm like, anyone who says yes to this opportunity is absolutely insane. But we didn't know any different. So we're sitting there, we're dressed up for an interview, and we're like, excuse the construction site here. This is what you're walking into. It was a fun environment, and the people that we hired right off the bat knew what they were coming into. They knew that we were all going to kind of figure it out on
Yeah.
our own. So I don't want to like take the answer, but it's not always what you see. I mean, I think
Mm-mm.
so many times you're seeing the highlight reel and you're seeing 15 years of what it looks like. I mean, I could do a whole podcast episode on money that we have invested that didn't work out. People that we have invested in that didn't work out. I mean, like so many, like
Look, Jordan, a great example that comes up is I lost my shit one day because they were using a roll of toilet paper a day. And I'm like, every penny counts right now. And so I had a serious come to Jesus conversation with them. Looking back on that now, I'm like, I would never care now because that doesn't even matter. But back then it's like, I'm about to fire 2 team members because you guys are going through a roll of toilet paper a day.
My
This is
first
excessive.
accountability meeting was over toilet paper. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going
Yeah.
on?
So,
yeah, I mean, we would never do that now, but you kind
Crappy
of
situation.
exactly. But no,
Interesting.
look, I've never met a business owner that doesn't go through a ton of trials and tribulations and learning lessons along the way, no matter how good their career is, no matter how good it looks on the inside. Man, 18, 20-hour days is never fun. Stress, learning how to work together. So to answer your question, no, it's not always. I don't know if business ownership has ever been easy.
Where, like, was it in your career where you feel like, just as like on the insurance side, where you guys felt like you really like hit your stride? Like, what did that really look like?
Great question. What would you say?
I think in the beginning, we had a really, really fast start. We hit the ground running really, really fast. I think probably the biggest shift that I noticed, I shifted to marketing. So the first day that I walked into the office, he gave me like a cold call list. It was like aged leads. And I started making cold calls. And about 50 of them in, I realized this is not for me. I'm going to have to figure out a different role in the office. Switched to marketing. We really started focusing on what organic
Mm,
marketing looked like. That took about 7 months. Around that same time, we were figuring out our processes, our systems. We always taught the multi-line sales conversation and had a huge focus on training. But I think the biggest shift happened probably about 7 or 8 months in, when we quit focusing so much on dials and we focused more on conversations, where we actually started paying attention to how our people were motivated and actually what was the thing that we wanted. And I think we just had more experience as business owners. We were playing the game of, you're getting so much information of like, track this and this is what you should hold people accountable to. And we actually started going, okay, wait, how are our people motivated? What's the result that we actually want? And where is our best use of marketing? Like, where can we actually bring in the quality leads that we want? So I would say probably like the first 7 months were kind of like trial. We were still in the old system too, just transparently. We had to earn our contract.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we went. You had to go for it that first year to make sure that you kept your contract. The second shift probably came in 2016 when we really focused on life insurance.
yeah, because yeah, I'd say that 12-month, like you start to, it takes a while. Anytime you start a new business, it's like a fire hydrant. And 3 months, the first 3 months, 6 months in, it's a fire hydrant. And so you're just trying to figure out what works, building a culture, leading people, trying to get people in the right seats, really focusing on the processes and systems that you want in your agency. And so, yeah, 7, 10, 12, 18 months, like the processes and systems start to figure themselves out. But in 2016, we almost actually walked away because the whole part of the reason why we joined the company we did was because they offered investments at the time. I don't know if you know my story or not, George, but I grew up really blue collar. My dad was a pension worker for Yellow Freight, and during the great financial crisis of '08, they got hit pretty hard. So like his pension decreased by about 75%, and sorry, one second. He was supposed to be able to retire at 52, and long story short, he'll turn
61.
61. Yeah, and he has to work till 65 now. So, and Yellow Freight actually went out of business 2 years ago. So, but I saw what happened in '08 when I was in college, and I was like, man, like my dad's worked his whole life. He's been loyal. He's the type of person that shows up and then just gets kicked in the you know what, and really had no control over his financial future. And so I knew I never wanted myself to be reliant on somebody else for my financial future, and I wanted to help customers. So that was partly why I teamed up with who I did at the time. And then 2016, some regulations happened. The company had to step out of the investment industry. And so I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. We're questioning agency. The first 5 months of 2016 was the worst in our career. To give you an idea, we had 5 life apps issued in May and 13,000 in premium is how bad it was. So I had a come to Jesus conversation. Really, she had a come to Jesus conversation with me in May and was like, you need to get your shit together and you need to figure out, are we doing this or are we going to go to a new occupation, new industry? So I reached out to some mentors of mine, reached out to some coaches, did some product knowledge, and turned myself into the life insurance guy, and then implemented changes in June. And so between June, July, August, so going into September, we wrote over 100,000 in premium and 8 life apps, close to
Jeez.
80 life apps.
That's
And
awesome.
so what I learned in that 3-month period was huge for me, though, because then we never struggled with life insurance ever again. The premium was better, the death benefits was better. So what we implemented in that 3-month period really carried us on in the rest of our career from a financial services standpoint. I guess that goes back to your first question. Has it always been easy? Shit, no. I almost left. I was almost like, no way, man. This isn't for me.
Well, and what were those lessons in those 3 months that like really made things click for you? or at least for you guys?
So going to the basics is focus and discipline. What you constantly communicate about is what's going to happen, what you're constantly focused on. So we started tracking life insurance conversations. Up until that point, we had never tracked life insurance conversations. So in 2016, we started tracking life insurance conversations. We started working the book of business more. And we started incorporating on new business conversations. So I would teach the team how to do like the mortgage payoff protector conversation. So it's getting niched down on like ideal customers. So homeowners, we're going to bring it up this way. Renters, we're going to bring it up this way. 50 to 65-year-olds are going to bring up the burial plan. But not only that, we had a huge emphasis in getting in front of people. So not only was the team helping with writing those $250,000, $500,000 apps, because their average death benefit increased over that 3-month period from $125,000 to a little over $500,000 with the changes that we had in death benefit, not I wish it was premium death benefit.
Sure.
So, but that's significant, as you know, even on term, like that's a significant bump. And then what I was doing is I was getting in front of as many customers as I could over that 3-month period, both onboarding brand new customers and existing customers that maybe I'd met with or maybe I hadn't. So I was finding some serious money that I had never found before. Because a lot of times over the phone or new customers, they just don't trust you enough to be like, oh yeah, I got $1 million in investments, or we're not going to write $1 million whole life policy over the phone. So I did a really good job of getting in front of people, building relationships, and really what I would call mastering the appointment conversation. And that was a big proponent too. And then I was able to teach team members to do that going on into 2017. So I wanted to develop the process myself, the appointment conversation, really try to master it so then I could duplicate myself was what I tried to do.
In tandem with that, 2016 was also the year. So leading up from 2014 to 2016, we already were really focused on like a social media presence. We friended every single customer.
Yeah.
We would send them a thank you message and invite them to like our business page. So that was already happening. Well, in 2016, Facebook launches their live feature. Michael comes home and he says, hey, Gary Vee's talking about this new thing on Facebook. I think we should do this. So twice a week, we would go live on Facebook. This is kind of the pivot where we realize, okay, you have to brand yourself, not the company that you work for, because if not, we have no competitive advantage. We're all selling the exact same product. So in 2016, we really started to turn up how much content we were putting out and what message we wanted our customers to receive. On Sunday, he would do Sunday Smarts, and he would talk about like basic budget tips, money tips, like anything like
what to look for in your home insurance policy,
Yeah.
life insurance stuff. So we did that for 3 months. Yeah. Sunday Smarts. It was awesome.
Yeah. So you did that. And then we did Weaver Wednesday, and that went on for
3 years.
3 years. And we would go live every single week, and we would hop on and we would talk about relationship advice, places that we travel. We really wanted to brand ourselves as people. So when somebody thought about insurance, they knew who to go to. So that was happening around that same time. So that was probably for me from the marketing side, is really honing in on, you have to build a personal brand. Like when people think of insurance, they need to think of you because they're going to be talking about you without you in the room. What are they saying too?
Well, and it sounds like too, like a lot of, new agents or just agents in general, they kind of want to be the CEO, high level, just write the check, let things kind of like run. But it sounds like it didn't look like that for you guys right away. And maybe even still this day, you guys are kind of still in the grind. So like, what would you say to that insurance agent out there that they want to like start day one as a CEO, kind of running the business?
So this is just not our experience. This is a lot of experience that we've talked to from some of the best agents in the country on our podcast, some one-off things that I've done. And what I would say is, unless you have extremely deep pockets, and when I say deep pockets, I would say anywhere between $250,000 and $500,000 that you can just burn through over like a 3-year period, the ability to go in and be a CEO from day one and truly expect yourself to not produce at all is just very unlikely. Most of the individuals that I've found that have had to go out and get loans for money like that, they're still severely in debt year 4, year 5, year 6, year 7, year 8, trying to get themselves out of a hole. So sales cures all. And the best way to grow a business is through great people. And you have to be able to afford great people, which means that you have to grow your revenue to afford great people. And so everyone's going to have their own philosophy or mindset on this. But our goal was basically to be in personal production till we hit that 3 million mark. Because I'd always been told by agents, if you can hit the 3 million mark, things start to get you can start to make some money and things of that nature. So I'm in a scratch agency in a low premium market without any, we never got an assignment. It took us right about 2.5 to 3 years to do that. So right at that 3 mil mark, that's when I started to really pull my foot off the pedal from a PNC production standpoint. Still pretty heavy on appointments, financial services, things like that. I really didn't pull my foot off. I loved meeting with customers, so I really didn't pull my foot off the gas pedal with that until we hit about the 5 mark. And even then, I still love to meet with customers. Like, that was just something I love to do. So to answer your question, George, I think that this isn't talked about enough, because when we have rock star agents on, a lot of times they're 15, 20 years into the business. They're not talking about what they did years 1 through 5. Most agents I've talked to that are wildly successful today, that most people have heard, seen, they were in the trenches with their team day in and day out, working 12, 15, 18, 20-hour days in personal production, leading their team in personal production, being community liaison, literally everything in the business. Not saying that that's how you have to do it, because I'm a control freak by nature, but you have to have revenue. Like, this is a for-profit business, right?
Mhm.
And I'm all about investing into the business, but there is a certain level of debt that you can get to that is extremely hard to get out of. And so you just have everyone's going to have different rules here, but unless you have deep pockets, my opinion is you have to be willing to sacrifice, stay disciplined to the process, paint the vision, and be willing to put in the work and gradually move into that CEO role to where you can. And just because you're CEO, that doesn't mean the responsibility stops, right? Like, now you're a leader, the position just looks different. You're a leader of people, your responsibilities and duties change. It doesn't mean you put your feet up on the desk and you are just watching like YouTube all day long.
Yeah, I think our personal philosophy is we want people to be with us. We want to lead people. We don't want to be bosses. So we're always willing to do, if we're going to ask somebody to do it, we've already done it. Like, we're willing to lead by example. That's just who we are as people. The other thing about CEOs, I think there's this misunderstanding that being a CEO means you have bought away all your problems. Being a CEO means that your problems are bigger. They are more challenging. Your problems don't go away because you climb up higher on that ladder. The problems get bigger. And so I don't want that to get overlooked, because I hear people say that a lot. I'd like to be the CEO. And you're just solving bigger problems. You're always going to solve problems. That's why we're all business owners. That's why we get into business. Business is built to solve problems. And so if that's not your cup of tea, I wouldn't suggest this as an occupation, because especially in insurance, that's why we're all here, is to solve problems. So that's just kind of our philosophy, is as we have climbed in our role in leadership, different challenges. Usually it comes down to bigger money problems, or it's bigger people problems, or it's bigger process problems that you have to solve. But I think for us, we always wanted to go in and actually like work the process all the way through to be able to understand, who do I even need for this position? What skill sets would they have? What kind of tools do I need for this? Like, we wanted to be able to actually touch it and feel it and go through the whole thing. And we didn't have the capital in the beginning to start hiring COOs and managers and all of that. We just didn't. And we didn't have the tech then. It was 2014. And every time we started a business, obviously things changed, but that's always how we've done things.
And we built our business off of cold, literally smile and dial, because we didn't have money for marketing. We couldn't get a loan from a bank. We didn't have rich family members. We just smiled and dialed. And that's how we grew our book of business. But I want to touch on the CEO thing, because I don't know if it gets easier, but it does get better, I think. Like, we have an amazing team around us. We were able to just go to Africa for 3 weeks. We didn't work, no email, no social media. We came back and both of us had less than 45 minutes of work. So if you build a great team and you have a business with great processes and you trust those, it is amazing what happens. So it doesn't, now that's not like an immediate thing. Like, this is years and years and years and years and years of work and sacrifice and failures and learning lessons to get to the right team, to get to the right culture, to get to the right processes that allow us to do things like that.
Yeah, it'll come.
Well, and that sort of answers my next question, because I was going to ask more around, like, how do you know it's time to get the CEO role, and, like, if you do it too early, too late? But I guess the answer is the Africa test. If you can go to Africa for 3 weeks and not touch anything and your business is still growing, I think you're now a CEO. So
That's it. So we
The Africa test.
So we did something similar.
can you believe it?
Not that you have to do for 3 weeks or a month, right? You could do it for a week and just say, "I'm not logging on to email, I'm not communicating with the team," and just see what
Mhm.
happens. Like, do a stress test. So, our first stress test and really our first major vacation together besides honeymoons was in 2017. So, it'd have been about 3 years into the business, and we went to Australia, New Zealand, and Thailand. We were gone for 33 days. We didn't take the laptops. I would check in with the team, all right? I would check in with the team, but other than that, I didn't work at all. And we came back and I did have a little bit more work than I had about 4 hours of work to catch up on, but that's after a month. Had one of the highest production months we've ever had. And so that opened my eyes and actually helped my control like monster inside of me be like, I need to trust the team more. They're great at what they do. They actually did better when I was gone. But stress test your business. That's the only way you're going to find out the weaknesses in your business is if you stress test it and you're not there to solve the problems all the time or answer all the questions.
I would say too, I would reference Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time, and actually start outsourcing based on that ladder. I think he goes admin, marketing, sales, and then you move your way up. I see so many times people will try to jump to like a COO or an office manager, and they don't have what they actually need is like a basic admin assistant. So I think I would reference that book on like where you would climb and who you would start delegating things to right off the bat.
Okay. Well, and I want to switch gears a little bit because you guys are married. How does that work?
A lot of conversations, I should say that. I think the biggest thing
Arguments included.
man,
It's all out there today. I mean, bro.
Yep. Well, first of all, just straight up marriage advice, you have to learn how to fight. You have to learn
do.
how to fight. You have to learn how to argue. Like, not only that, you have to learn how to fight for each other. And so I would tell you, like, in the beginning, like, there was some straight out, like, because when you're around each other
Dog fights.
all the
Yeah.
time and all you're talking about is work and you have no boundaries, you have no balance, like, literally
You have no money.
your entire life is based off of this one decision. Shit, there was a lot of like arguments or fights or so, but you learn, right? Like just like any early relationship, working together, not working together, you're going to learn how to communicate. You're going to learn what each other like. You're going to learn how to argue, learn how to fight. And in business, it just magnifies everything. But I think it's the best decision we've ever made and why we have the relationship we have today. So that's where I'll stop. You can go ahead.
I would agree. And it might not be the sexiest thing, but I think setting up a successful business and setting up a successful marriage use the same like fundamental principles. You have to communicate, you have to set priorities, you have to know what's off limits, and you have to make intentional time. So whatever you're focused on in your relationship or in your business has to be a priority. So I think for us, we learned how to be business owners and married people at the exact same time. So first we had to learn how to communicate. Like, what do we need? What does the business need? Like, how does this work? And also, what are our roles and responsibilities? What do we do well? The same thing in a marriage. You need to understand, like, what are your roles and responsibilities? Who does what? Who does something better? So that was kind of like the first thing is what are we responsible for? And then respecting each other's lane of like, he's very much sales. I'm very much marketing. When it comes to people, he's better at one thing. I'm better at something else. So we had to learn how to do that. And then I think it's moving on to communication of what do I need? What does the business need? What are we focused on? Where is our time, our energy? What are the expectations? I think the biggest thing is aside from just communication, setting up like your who's responsible for what, the roles and responsibilities, is understanding that there are seasons for everything. There are seasons where you are all gas and no brakes. And you're like, okay, we are working 16 hours a day. Like we're in that season right now where it's like Michael and I are working until 10 o'clock at night. We understand. We have communicated that. We have set expectations. We both know that this is what we're focused on. When we're not in that season, when we're in Africa for 3 weeks, that's a season of rest. We know that our expectations are different. So I don't know that there's a great answer for how you do this. I think it's really all about communications, clear expectations, understanding where each other is at. And to Michael's point, not just knowing how to fight, but how to come back together after you have a challenge, like how to talk through that thing and implement, like, what are we going to move forward with? What are we going to focus on now? What's a priority for us? Where's the thing that's, hanging out? The other thing I would say, don't keep score. Do not keep score. Like one person drops the ball in one area, another person drops, like we're humans. We're going to mess up. We're going to make mistakes in business and in life and in marriage. Just don't keep score. Remember, you're on the same team. Like we have that mantra always, same team, same team. Like we're working towards the exact same thing. And you have to communicate that. You have to communicate what is the vision that you have for your life and your business. And you're constantly reinforcing that. Like, we want to work really hard, but we also want to travel our asses off. Like, that is our vision for our life. So we're constantly reinforcing that vision with each other.
And I mean, do you think like if you do want to be super successful, even if you don't work with your spouse, right? And you're running a business and you want to be really big, make a lot of money, do they have to be on board? Do you think you get away with maybe just kind of sneaking by? Like, you know, what are you're smiling. So maybe you've got a point on it, but
I think the person that you choose to spend your life with will be the biggest decision that you ever make, because they are either going to be the person that fans that flame and says, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, or they will smother it. They will smother it and say, you can't do this, this isn't possible. And it's really hard to have somebody who has $1 billion dream to be with somebody who says, there's no way, that's not possible, we'll never do this.
Yep.
That never works. Something will crumble there. Either one person will drop or the relationship won't make it. So, yeah, you have to be on the same page. You have to reinforce that.
Yeah, and so I was going to say, so the flip side to this is a lot of times the value alignment's there, the vision alignment's there, but what I found in talking with peers that may not have worked with their spouses is what they found themselves doing was always telling the spouse all the bad things that were going on, like going home every day and just like ranting over like, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened. Somebody can only hear so much bad, and if they never hear good, that's going to be pretty easy to change that vision because they love you and they're gonna be like, maybe this isn't it. Maybe we should choose a different path, right? So just as much as a spouse being on the same page, it's also just as important to the individual that's working in the business, if your spouse isn't working with you, to also communicate the good, to also communicate, hey, this is where we're at, this is where we're going, to constantly reiterate the vision and the good things that are happening that are going to get you there.
Oh, I think that's so good because you bring up such a valid point, because I'm not saying you need to leave the person that you're with if they're bringing you down. I'm saying you need to have an open conversation about, usually it's a fear. Usually a person that has a big dream or they have a big vision and they have somebody else that's not on board. The person that's not on board usually has some kind of fear around that. It's going to change maybe their role in the relationship. It's going to change how much responsibility they're going to have to take. It's going to change a belief that they have. Like, there's usually some kind of fear. So again, going back to, this is a conversation around, this is the vision that I have. What are some fears or concerns that come up when I say that? Because most of the time, as the partner, you're thinking, I'm going to have to work more. I'm going to have to take the kids somewhere more. I'm not going to see you as much. You're going to become greedy or selfish or whatever all those things
What are people going to think?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So I think that it's really, again, I'm going to keep hitting on this conversation.
Communication, baby.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that because they've got to be on board, and you got to just kind of always be moving in the same direction because, like you said, you're on the same team. I think just always that. I think more people need that reminder. You know, you're on the same team, right? Because it's pretty easy to get. You know, even if you're only with that person at night and in the morning, you can get snippy little and all day. So no, I like that. You're on the same team. How do you guys, I mean, you've already touched on it, right? One of you guys is sales, one of you is more like marketing, but in every like business partnership and also in every marriage, there's always like I don't know how to put it, maybe like the visionary or maybe like the optimist, right? And then there's more of like the operator, and not necessarily, you know, some might refer to them as pessimists, but they would call themselves realist, right? So who's the realist? Who's the optimist, right? Well, what does that look like for you guys?
Well, do you know anything about Enneagrams?
No
All right.
idea.
So we're both Enneagram 3s, which means we're both performers. So we are actually both visionaries. And so this is, I don't want to say it's a challenge. Like, how are you? We're both visionaries. I can go into the operations role a little bit more than you, but at the end of the day, we're both extreme visionaries.
Yeah, I would say natural tendency, he's always going to say, it's not that hard. If there's a problem, he's going to say, it's not that hard. We can figure this out. We got this. And I'm going to say, have you thought of this? That's going to be the thing that I run through.
I'm wildly optimistic. I am
In-
too
Okay.
optimistic. All right.
to where I'm like, hey, there's some red flags we might need to pay attention to. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I am the integrator, because I'm not the integrator. And he can be, but he's also not the integrator. So we hired that position out. So our COO is insane, and she is the integrator. She is Excel. She makes sure everything's buttoned up. She like follows the
True
process.
operations. Like, that's just how it works.
Yeah. So
Best hiring decision we've ever made.
oh my gosh, the best. But I wouldn't say that either one of us are one other. Like we're both visionaries, we're both Enneagram 3s, we're both generators in human design. We both run at very high level, we have high energy. That actually is the thing that we have to watch because we'll start feeding on each other and we'll start being like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then we're like, wait, what are we doing? What's happening here? Hold on, slow it down. Like where are we? And the thing is too, because we run at that pace with that energy, we have to remember that the people on our team, the people that work with us, don't have that same system. So a lot of times we'll be 100 yards ahead and they're like, you need to pull it back and actually explain, what are you even talking about? What are we even focused on? So, but I would say, to circle back and answer that question, he's going to be the one that says it's not that hard. And I'm going to be the one that says, have you thought of this? This could be an issue.
Okay. I mean, yeah, with my wife, like, it's kind of similar, right? Where it's like I have these ideas, I can only see the good, and then she's like, "Well, what about this?" And I'm like, "Oh, don't be negative." So,
Yeah, I'm like, "Do we have a legal contract for that? I think we need to have a legal contract before you start saying that stuff." And
right,
he's like, "Oh, yeah, yeah,
exactly,
yeah, yeah." I'm like, "Yeah."
It'll be fine.
right, just steamroll ahead. Well, where can people learn more about you guys, Weaver Sales Academy? I know you're even working on some other stuff. So, I mean, where can people find you?
I think the easiest thing, since you're already on a podcast and you're already in that jam, is check us out on the Insurance Buzz. That's going to give you everything that you need to know. You can also text us. We love having personal conversations. We love to hear where you're at in the journey. So you can text us 277610. It's actually Michael. It's not a robot. And then we're on all the socials. So Michael Weaver, Courtney Weaver, you can find us anywhere you like to hang out on social media. We're going to be there.
And one more thing that to just kind of leave everybody with, the entrepreneurs, the insurance agents, the couples, what's your like one piece of life advice that you think would help in all those categories?
I think the biggest thing is, at least for me, and the thing that I constantly remind him of, it is not what you're building, it is who you are building it with that matters. That's the big thing.
Yeah, I'll second that.
You're
It
not
is.
going to say, let's freaking go.
That's because it's true, because if nothing is ever built by yourself. It's always built with great people, and exactly what she says. Like, it's not about what you're doing, it's truly about who you're doing it with, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your team, whoever it is. So we're blessed in the fact that we do it with each other every single day. Obviously, I'm always a think bigger type of guy. Like, if you're stuck right now, just keep thinking bigger. But yeah. Great
Yeah.
question, George.
That is a great question.
I love it. It's not about the destination, it's who you're getting to the destination with.
It's
That's
a
right.
road trip, baby.
Yeah.
What's the music? What's the snacks? Who's in the car? Let's freaking go. What's this adventure like? That's what you're going to remember. You're going to remember. There's a line in The Office that I love. And he says, I wish somebody would tell you when you're in the good old days. And it's so true. Like, look around right now. This could be it. This is the dream.
These are the
These
good
are
old
the
days.
good old days
Right.
right now.
Right
You're
now,
living it.
currently.
Don't miss
These are
it.
the
Don't
good days.
Ferris Bueller it and miss your life passing you
Nope.
by. Look up. It's here. You're in it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Check out Weaver Sales Academy, learn to get better, send Michael a text. It's real, not some AI Michael. And thanks again, guys.
Thanks,
Absolutely,
Appreciate it.
George.